Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We are diving headfirst into honestly one of the most baffling and just downright fascinating stories in all of American aviation history. We're talking about the mystery of D.B. Cooper. To this day, it's actually the only unsolved commercial airplane hijacking in the entire United States. And look, I know it sounds exactly like something straight out of a Hollywood movie, but I promise you, every single detail we're about to explore is 100% real. So, how exactly does a man just vanish from the sky? I mean, that's the core mystery we're unraveling today, right? How could one single person pull off this absolutely legendary, high stakes heist, literally jump out of a moving aircraft and then just disappear, completely without a trace? It completely defies logic, and honestly, that is exactly why this case is still so incredibly captivating. Okay, let's dive right into this. Part 1, An Unsolved American Mystery, The Legend of D.B. Cooper. Which brings us to the Thanksgiving Eve hijacking on November 24th, 1971. Okay, so picture the scene. It's the super busy holiday season, right? People are traveling everywhere to see family. And this completely unassuming guy boards Northwest Orient Flight 305 in Portland. He identifies himself as Dan Cooper. And, he just looks totally ordinary, like just another passenger heading out for the holidays. But mid-flight, things take a wild turn, and the tension just spikes as he kicks his plan into gear. Eventually, the plane lands safely in Seattle. But instead of the story ending there, it's actually forced right back up into the air, rerouted down toward Reno. So let's back up for a second to that short initial trip from Portland to Seattle. Cooper, super calmly, hands a note to a flight attendant. And the message? Absolutely chilling. I have a bomb in my briefcase. Just like that, in an instant, this totally routine holiday flight turned into a terrifying, high-stakes hostage situation. Moving on to demands and passenger release, meeting the extortion requirements. So the really crucial point here is this massive number, $200,000. Now, in 1971, that was a staggering amount of money, basically a king's ransom. And get this, he didn't just want a check. No way. He demanded the entire sum in cash, specifically in 10,000 uncirculated $20 bills. His list of demands was incredibly precise. So obviously he wanted the 200 grand, but he also demanded 4 parachutes. And honestly, this was a brilliant tactical move. See, by asking for 4, authorities automatically assumed he might take hostages with him, which essentially forced them to provide fully functioning, unsabotaged gear. Smart, right? And finally, he demanded that the pilot route the plane toward Reno, Nevada. Now, authorities simply couldn't risk a disaster. So once the plane safely touched down in Seattle, the exchange was made. The money and the parachutes were brought on board and, well, true to his word, Cooper released all 36 passengers. But the hijacker, the flight crew, and all that cash were still trapped on the aircraft. Which sets the stage for a leap into the night, the daring escape. The actual mechanics of this escape are just almost unthinkable because they were flying in a Boeing 727, which, by the way, was an aircraft uniquely equipped with an aft staircase that could actually be lowered mid-flight. Cooper was able to pretty easily open the back door. So step 2, strapped with a parachute and clutching the ransom money, he literally jumped right out into the pitch-black night. And let's be clear, he didn't just jump into some calm, clear sky. No, he plummeted straight into a freezing, violent rainstorm. Somewhere over this rugged, heavily forested area in Washington state, he dove into 200-mile-per-hour winds and just total, unforgiving darkness. And then, he completely vanished. That brings us to the decades-long investigation, the search for answers. So the investigation essentially split into 2 main camps. Theory 1 suggests that he perished in that harsh wilderness because, the conditions were so brutal that surviving a jump like that seemed practically physically impossible. But on the flip side, Theory 2 argues that he actually survived and pulled off the perfect escape. And for years and years, this debate just raged on with absolutely zero definitive proof to tip the scales either way. And this brilliantly illustrates why this next part is so crazy. For nearly 9 years, the authorities had absolutely nothing to go on. Nothing. Until 1980, when a major, totally unexpected breakthrough finally happened. The Earth gave up a single clue. So here's what happened. A young boy who was vacationing with his family made this absolutely shocking discovery right on the banks of the Columbia River. He basically found this small bundle of highly deteriorated cash just rotting in the sand. The FBI checked the visible serial numbers, and you guessed it, they were a perfect match for Cooper's ransom money. But crazily enough, no parachute or human remains were ever found anywhere nearby. Leading us to our final chapter, the enduring legend, closing the active case. Fast forward all the way to 2016. 45 years after this guy jumped out of an airplane into a freezing rainstorm, the FBI makes a definitive, totally historic decision regarding the hunt for D.B. Cooper. They officially suspended the active investigation. Yeah, after decades of frustrating dead ends, they finally closed the files to redirect their resources elsewhere. And by doing this, they effectively cemented the D.B. Cooper hijacking as one of America's absolute greatest unsolved criminal puzzles, basically passing the baton of the mystery straight from federal agents over to civilian sleuths. Which leaves us with the ultimate, just incredibly provocative question. Who actually was D.B. Cooper, right? Was he this master criminal who lived out the rest of his days in secret wealth? Or was he just a desperate man swallowed up by the freezing wilderness? Well, we may never know for sure, leaving his true identity entirely up to our imaginations. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep analyzing the evidence, and whatever you do, never stop questioning the great mysteries out there.